Hello, welcome to Presqu'ile Provincial Park. My name is Sydney and I'm a naturalist with the Friends of Presqu'ile Park. Today, I want to take you on a virtual field trip along our Marsh Boardwalk Trail. Now, the marsh is a very special place and it's home to lots of different animals and plants. Can you think of any animals that might live in our marsh? There are lots of animals that live here in Presqu'ile's marsh. Animals like beavers, turtles, frogs, birds, and so many more. Let's go see what we can discover. Here we are in Presqu'ile's marsh. Did you know that Presqu'ile has one of the largest marshes in all of Lake Ontario? Look how big it is. Today, I want to talk to you about living things. Do we know the difference between living and non-living things? Well, a living thing is something that is or has been alive. Living things grow, move, take in energy, reproduce, and react to things. Here in our marsh, we have lots of living things. As we travel around the marsh today, we'll have to look around us to see how many living things we can see. So we know what living things are, but what about what they need? Can you think of some things that all living things need? There are 4 things that all living things need: air, water, food, and shelter. We are all living things, and we need these things too, right? In our homes, we can find food, water, and shelter, as well as air. The marsh is a home for many living things, and they find food, water, shelter, and air here as well. So today, we're going to see how the marsh provides those things for the living things that live here. Let's go see what we can find. What do you think the most important need is for all living things? Food, water, shelter, or air? Here's a hint. Which of these 4 things are we using right now at this very second? I'll tell you. It's air. Air is the most important thing for all living things, from the birds up in the trees to the little tiny insects in the soil below our feet. Now, they all need air to survive. So we know that living things like animals breathe air, but what about plants and trees? Do they breathe air too? Well, trees don't have lungs to breathe like we do, but they still need lots of air. Instead of lungs, trees breathe with their leaves. So the leaves are breathing for the trees right now. Pretty cool, right? Okay. Let's go see what else we can find. The next thing that all living things need is shelter. All living things need shelter or space. Animals need a safe place to sleep and somewhere to raise their families, whereas plants need their own space in order to grow. Shelter looks very different for different living things. A red-winged blackbird, for example, needs a very different shelter than, say, a beaver does. And a tree, like this one, needs a very different space than these cattails do. These plants are called cattails, and a lot of animals here in the marsh use them for shelter, but they use them in very different ways. Birds and insects, for example, use them for shelter against the wind and for protection against predators that might want to eat them. Some birds will actually build their nests in the cattails. If you come visit the marsh in the fall and take a very close look, sometimes you can see old nests between the cattails. Then we have the muskrat, which cuts down the cattails and uses them to build their homes. They also eat the cattails too. Just like we live in a house or an apartment, animals need places to live too. The water also provides shelter for living things. And we'll talk about that at our next stop. Let's talk about the third thing that all living things need: water. Here in the marsh, we have lots of water. Water is one of the main features that make up what a marsh is. So the marsh is a perfect home for animals that really love water. Can you think of any animals that really love water? Here in the marsh, you can find lots of different plants and animals that love water. Animals like frogs, turtles, fish, and so many more. This bridge is one of my favorite spots on the Marsh Boardwalk Trail. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can see an animal swimming underneath the bridge. Okay, we have one need left that we haven't talked about yet. Do you remember which one it is? Food. As we've walked around the marsh today, did you notice any examples of food here in the marsh? What about all these plants? Well, they don't look very yummy to us, but they're food for lots of living things, like caterpillars, deer, and many more. Here, we have some flowers. These flowers provide food for insects like bees and butterflies, and in the fall, these flowers turn into berries, and then the birds eat them. So it looks like, in the marsh, living things provide food for other living things. Animals eat the plants, and sometimes they eat other animals. But what about the plants? How do they get food? Plants actually make their own food. Plants make their own food using the sun, water, and air. Now, this has a very special name. It's called photosynthesis. Can you say that with me? Photosynthesis. So, plants can make their own food, which they use to survive. But animals can't, so they need to either eat plants or other animals in order to get their food and their energy, just like we do. Okay, let's keep going. I have one more cool spot to show you. Today, we explored the Marsh Boardwalk Trail and learned about the things that all living things need. Can you remember the 4 things that all living things need? Everything that is alive. The trees, the birds, the bugs, everything need air, water, food, and shelter in order to survive. Well, this brings us to the end of our virtual field trip today. I hope you had fun exploring the marsh, and I hope to see you at Presqu'ile in person very soon. Bye, everyone.